Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Buddy Study Group. And for today's call, I know we've released a lot of new tools in our Buddy system, agent portal, but I wanted to kind of do an all-encompassing run through of the Buddy system because as we add more and more new stuff, we kind of forget about some of the features that we've put together for you all. I think it's just going to be a good State of the Union. And I think Mark and I have both been asked this before. I love your study groups, but you guys should promote what you do more and consider this a bit of promotion of all the tools we have out there. But if you're a buddy system user or not, you have questions, you're looking for, um, giving any feedback on anything, or you want to stop the presentation and go over one feature specifically, I am super happy to do that. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, um, I know that many of you are current Buddy System members, but if you are not, this is a tour because I know we have some new people on of the Buddy System. Um, One of the things that I think goes a little under noticed is we have announcements here beyond just announcements of new features in the Buddy system. Every once in a while, you'll see some industry news here. But if you really want to get a snapshot of what's new in the Buddy system, what's recently been released, if there's new marketing resources available, folks are always asking me for marketing materials for specific purposes, asking Gretchen as well. You'll get announcements when those are released. So, we came out with the buddy system maybe 2 years ago now. It's just about going on 2 years. And for those of you who are in since the very beginning, number one, I thank you. But number two, it probably looks a lot different than when we first started out. We've added a lot of features over those 2 years, and it's really become something that I and I know many others log into every single day. But I just want to kind of give you an idea of the new navigation. So in that 2 years, we've added a lot of resources on the group side to complement a lot of the individual resources that were already here. And we've added a lot to both sides of the business within the buddy system. So we thought it was high time that we separate between group and individual. You know what you're coming in here for. Some of you come in here for both. Some of you come in here for one or the other. So you can just tab between individual and group, and there are a couple of things that happen. So we do have a product buddy and quick quote for either side of the house here. So you'll notice that it switches over to the group or individual one. But also we've had the sales guides down here. Switching between individual and group will just give you separate sides of the house there as well. So even if you haven't logged in the last week or so, that may be new to you and don't want you to get confused. So I just wanted to point that out first. And we have done a study group recently going over these Product Buddy and Quick Quote tools. Of course, we'll visit them, but I also wanted this to kind of be a refresher of some of the tools that have been out there for a while. We may have added a few things, or there may be some features that you haven't used yet in there. So I want to point your attention to those. And I think the first one is Benefit Buddy. We have the group and individual quick quote. Benefit Buddy is obviously Mark's baby, something that came from a little itty bitty Excel spreadsheet into what you see today. And, I am very happy with how this has developed, and Mark is very likely happy with it too. But I want to go over some of the lesser used features. I'll meet with people every once in a while and help people troubleshoot what they're going through with Benefit Buddy. And what I've noticed is people are starting to use this feature, but I think probably the most impactful feature of Benefit Buddy that I would say is probably underused is the custom LTCI function. People always ask me about, do you have XYZ carrier in Benefit Buddy? And my answer is we have representative pricing for NGL and for nationwide. That's what you see when you see traditional and hybrid LTCI in the chart choices. But custom LTCI allows you to show nearly every single product in Benefit Buddy's framework. I know many of you like the framework, but maybe use different carriers from NGL and Nationwide. And I just want to start by giving a little bit of a tutorial of how to use custom LTCI. So when you set it up, it's all going to be relatively similar up here to anything you would do with the traditional or hybrid charts, right? You select your state, you select your spouse or partner status, age, gender, and you can put in a hypothetical claim age. When it gets down to the bottom here, this is really where the custom nature of the module comes into play. And what I did was I grabbed just a Thrivent sample illustration from one of our sales guides to show you how to do this. Um, so when you actually go to use these inputs, you're going to have to include premium, years of premium, and the pay mode from the illustration. And you'll have to grab the monthly benefit and the total LTC benefits, not always for age 85, but for whatever your claim age is set to. Okay, so if you can grab the LTC benefit and the monthly benefit at whatever claim age you're looking for, that's going to allow you to really make the magic of custom LTCI happen. So I'm going to stick with 85. We're looking at a male age 55. I want to just make sure I didn't put in a couples illustration. Oh, I did. We're looking at a male and female age 55, state of Kansas. So I am going to change the state to Kansas. I'm going to include yes, and I'm actually going to include shared because we do have shared benefit on this sample illustration. So that's a 55-year-old male and female in Kansas, and we are looking at for them, let's see here. We have a total of $59.94 annually. We are looking at $22.50 for the male, $37.44 for the female annually. So we will put that premium in. We will put it in at $22.50. And for the second insured, we'll use $37.44. And we are paying premiums on an annual basis until we are on claim. Okay? So that means given an age of 55 and a claim age of 85, we are paying these premiums annually for a total of 30 years. So let's get down to the projections. Most illustrations will actually show these projections. If not, there's just a little bit of math to do to be able to calculate the benefits at age 85. So we are looking at a max monthly benefit of $12,136. That is for each of them. 12,136. 12,136.
And Jason, I'll just butt in. This is a great quiz of your understanding of the carrier's illustration too.
That it is 100%. And then we're looking at an available benefit for both of them of 436,907. $436,907. And for me, this is a good quiz of typing under pressure. So we will update the charts now. And the hybrid LTCI is going to give us an error, but I recommend maybe comparing to self-funding. So you can actually show this framework within Benefit Buddy for a Thrivent illustration, even though Thrivent's representative pricing isn't actually tied to Benefit Buddy in any way. So I think for those of you who are using other products and want to use more of Benefit Buddy, custom LTCI is definitely your ticket here. And you can use that to compare to self-funding. You can use it to compare to the cost of care. You can use hybrid products as well. So you can show death benefit and cash value at age 85. I just turned it off because we're dealing with a traditional long-term care product. But
Jason, go back down to the bottom real quick, just so
yes.
people can see it real quick. It's really easy. When you click that toggle on, you'll see in the picture, do you see how death benefit shows up? That's all it's doing. It's just saying whether you want to hide it or show it.
Yep.
So just really easy, like Jason was saying, to make it a hybrid version of the same picture.
So if, if you are looking at an illustration, you're like, wow, that this plan has a lot of value in it, but you want to actually be able to communicate that easily to the client. That's the whole reason Custom LTCI was born. And I think it's a fantastic tool if you're not using it, but you're a user of Benefit Buddy. You should definitely start when you're working with other products because there's even less limitations on this than, say, going through NGL or Nationwide in the traditional and hybrid LTCI modules. So that's something I really appreciate. Do you want to add anything else to this, Mark, on the custom LTCI? I want to get in a little, without diving too deep, into the kind of tax savings and the calculations that go into that as well, because I think that's useful and underutilized. But any thoughts on custom LTCI?
I would just say the reason that I like it in this model, even though I'm typing in the numbers, is it does calculate that multiplier for you, 7.1 times. And to me, that's my North Star, kind of what I look for to assess value very quickly between different products. And I think the client also finds that to be intuitive. If you give them a metric, to assess value, it lets them decide if they want to buy more or less coverage. And the conversation changes. How much coverage do you want to buy, not whether you want to buy coverage, especially when you compare it to the self-funding side, which is doing that calculation for you and showing in this case 2.3 times, coverage. Jason's also
Sorry.
showing you how you can toggle over to show the cost of care. So you can have a conversation in one place instead of jumping to the Genworth website and then back to your illustration and back and forth. This just takes them side by side and this says, if your goal is 18,000 a month in this case, our plan's covering 12,000 a month, your gap is 6,000. Are you comfortable funding that out of pocket or having family care for a certain amount of this coverage just to let them make the decision between the amount of money they pay for the insurance premium and the amount of risk transfer they're doing. Again, it
Yeah.
becomes that conversation, Jason, of not whether you want to do it, but how much of it do you want to do?
Yeah, and we've talked about this before on the study group calls, but I think if you're finding a lot of value with the self-funding module, you should be using the cost of care module side by side. And I've always been a huge proponent and felt like I was very, very good at using the self-funding side of Benefit Buddy, but there was one day where Mark said, we should probably flip it to the cost of care as well and turn it into how much do we want to self-fund? Because it really worked in with my approach of not being confrontational, but really showing that everybody's doing a little bit of both. But, flipping it to the how much and kind of putting that question to the client or whoever you're talking to of, it's kind of implied that we're going to do a little bit of self-funding and a little bit of insurance because we've shown how good of a deal insurance is compared to the self-funding side. But the question really is how much. That's not really up to me to decide. I can show you what 100% of the goal looks like. I can show you what 25% of the goal looks like. I can show you what 60% of the goal looks like. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you to determine what you're comfortable with. And so I think that's a super good complement to the self-funding side here. Now, does anybody have any questions on custom LTCI or any of the pieces we've gone over so far in Benefit Buddy? Okay. There are some products that have a difficult time fitting into the custom LTCI framework. Not many, but I would say One America might be the toughest to illustrate in custom LTCI just because you've got that non-inflating base plan, and then you've got the COB that potentially has inflation, lifetime unlimited, things of that nature. So it can be a little tough to show in here. But before we go into kind of the tax
Oh,
savings
I'll
piece,
give it
oh,
I'll give a quick tip on that. In any plan that has lifetime benefits, the key is just to pick a number of years and calculate what the amount of money that would be paid out is. So don't make it more complicated than it is. Give the client a way to assess, if I had a risk and I needed 6 years of care, this is how much this policy would pay for, and that's your total. That's
yeah,
really what it comes down to. The monthly is, whatever you want to show there. It's not going to affect the insurance multiplier at all. Do you want to show the initial amount that they're getting covered or the inflated amount? And you can decide if you want to calculate that too. But those are the only real changes that you have to make.
that's a good point. And I think, when I do talk to people who might feel a little bit stuck with Benefit Buddy, I don't think they're actually stuck. I think most of the people I come across who have, worked with Benefit Buddy in earnest are actually doing a great job with it. as far as setting it up and using it to show scenarios. But where I see them falling a little short is maybe trying to overstretch, maybe not overstretch the capabilities of Benefit Buddy, but they're trying to use it as a completely formal quote where it's really going to be more of a conceptual storytelling tool at its heart. It can obviously provide a lot of metrics, especially in the case of traditional and hybrid LTCI that are similar to a quote. As a matter of fact, you can actually go to hybrid LTCI and you can download an illustration when we set this up here. You can actually download a nationwide illustration directly from this. So there are the bones of a formal illustration in here, but really it's to help you tell the story. It's to help you see the value of the plan that you're describing and showing it against multiple scenarios and using it to guide the client to what happens if I, move around XYZ assumptions here.
Yeah, think of it as like the cover page to your illustration.
Right.
You've delivered that message, hopefully in person or on a screen share like this. You have a follow-up. This is a great way to summarize your conversation and leave behind with them the main takeaways that you want them to remember. Because if they go back to that illustration 3 months later, it's probably going to look very foreign to them, like, 30-page document where they don't understand the numbers. You bring them this picture that you walk them through, it's probably much more likely they're going to remember why they wanted to do this, and you're going to get right back into that conversation again.
100%. So this button is now live. You can actually download an illustration legitimately instantly once you've got the correct parameters put into Benefit Buddy. So this is something you're all familiar with if you've worked with Nationwide Care Matters. A full illustration is now able to be generated from Benefit Buddy. So pretty cool feature there that's available. But one more thing before we go to the tax savings side of things. Um, these case studies that we have here are actually, many of them are created using custom LTCI. So if you don't want to at first go through an illustration and try to make those calculations, you can check into these case studies for traditional hybrid group, alternative long-term care, and see if a carrier that you like to use has already been kind of put in here as a case study. So we have Nationwide in here. We have Bright House. We have Lincoln MoneyGuard Fixed Advantage, Securian Secure Care 3. We have a number of group plans, Chubb, Trustmark, Allstate, that are available for you to take a look at that have been put in here. Traditional, NGL Joint, Business Owner, traditional versus self-funding. And then we have Mutual of Omaha's long-term care that's available in here. So there are lots of predetermined templates in here, pre-made templates, Aetna short-term care, Equitrust Bridge. So you can click into this and this will give you a snapshot of Aetna short-term care versus self-funding for a 65-year-old female, state of Texas. So I think these templates are something if you want to just really get a quick concept rather instantly. Again, this is a really good kind of spot to go. But Mark, I want to talk a little bit about this because this actually came up recently. Um, and I don't want to dive too deep. I don't want to fry anybody's brains, but I do want to talk about the tax savings portion up here. And I want to talk about just this specific input in Benefit Buddy and what it can really accomplish, right? So this can be used for traditional and hybrid LTCI and it can kind of show you the effect of the long-term care deduction for business owners.
And you can
Um,
also use it for custom as well, I believe.
yes, correct. Custom, I don't believe so, actually.
Okay.
Cus Custom, we do not have that in here
Oh,
at
okay.
this moment.
I see. Sorry about that.
So traditional and hybrid, it is available. Um, So you'll start here by putting in what you're actually trying to show. Are you trying to show this for an HSA or HRA owner? Are you trying to show it for a C Corp or a non-C Corp, right? And really the C Corps are the ones who are going to be able to deduct 100% of the premium. Non-C Corps are everybody else kind of dealing with the age banded deduction amounts, right? So, um, which one would you like to start with, Mark? You want to start with non-C
Do the
Corp?
C Corp just because for
Okay.
those that are not familiar with the concept, it's a little bit easier to
So,
understand.
yeah, you're going to put in the effective tax rate percentage of the client. Many of us will have to sort of ballpark it or get this information directly from the client. You'll put in the percentage of premium that's long-term care. If you're dealing with a traditional product, obviously that's 100. If you're dealing with a hybrid product, many illustrations will have that separately identifiable long-term care premium where you can calculate the percentage of the premium that is for long-term care. You can talk about the age, you can input the age of their last long-term care deduction that they'll make. And then the age limit inflation percentage is kind of the inflation percentage, the amount we expect that age banded premium deduction to rise over time. And I know we default at 3, but do you know historically, Mark, what we've kind of seen that at, or is 3
Three is
really
the
what we've seen?
historical average. Yep.
Perfect. Okay, good. So we'll just stick with these numbers right now, and we will update the charts. And you can see that it's showing essentially a little math equation here with the projected tax savings from deductions over time from age 50 through to that claim age of 85 or the last deduction. Since we're doing a recurring premium here, it will take us all the way out to age 85 with that deduction. And we are seeing a savings of 32,923 and we're seeing new premiums of 76,819 compared to the total pay premium of 109,000. Now, this is not actually going to discount the premium on their insurance policy, right? There is a savings that results from being able to deduct that long-term care premium. So that's tax you wouldn't actually pay. But this is kind of a concept to say if we took that savings and put it essentially against the premiums of the long-term care plan that they're looking at, this is what the net would be. Hope I did a good enough job of explaining that, Mark.
Yep. Very good. Yep. And with the C Corp, you have certain rules subject to reasonable compensation, but there's no limit to the tax deductibility. So it's not going to compare to any IRS table. Okay. The
Right,
owners are considered employees, and you're allowed to do this for the employees who are owners. Um, when you go to the tax savings, you're going to use that more when you choose the non-C Corp.
right,
And that's where it's going to look at the annual limit because in greater than 2% owner of a non-C corp, meaning an S corporation, a partnership, or a sole proprietor, does have a maximum cap to how much they can take each year. So this will just kind
correct.
of make sure that we limit the deduction realistically to what their savings actually look like. This all being said, we would encourage you to watch the study groups that we've done on business owner long-term care or executive carve-outs, just to understand the concept, because this tool in the hands of somebody that doesn't really understand that can be dangerous too. We want you to make sure you're giving your clients the right advice. So make sure you understand how that works. This is just going to show you the value of the results, if the business owners or executives take advantage of it.
Right. But if you're speaking with a business owner and you feel confident enough to present this concept, it can be really effective, especially when you're presenting against kind of the self-funding, right? So you're actually seeing a pulling in two different directions, right? In a taxable market account, self-funding's value is actually eroded by the taxes that you would need to pay. But on the insurance side, the deduction that you take actually works for you in a positive way. So that actually even takes the self-funding conversation a little bit further. But in the interest of time and to kind of move things along, let's just show a non-C corp and let's show the tax savings amount. So Mark, you love charts. I don't. But what we're seeing here is each age, each calendar year. we're seeing the amount of premiums that are paid into the policy. This is the consistent annual premium paid until age 85 in this example. And what we're seeing here is the lesser of the premium paid and the IRS limit of deduction, correct?
Yeah, let me caveat this by saying this is not something you have to use in every
Right,
conversation you have. The
right,
reason we put this together is to give you a little bit under the curtain as to where that tax the savings number comes from, which is going to be the gray total number at the bottom under estimated tax savings. So 29,222, that's going to match the benefit buddy chart. So if you're trying to understand how we derive that number, this is kind of a worksheet to give you an audit trail for that, or to walk your client through the process for how it's calculated. But to Jason's point, yeah, you got it exactly right, is there's going to be a cap for that non-C corporation, right? The S corporation, for example, where it's going to say, what is your age limit for this deduction? But because each year that age limit grows, because you age into higher limits over time, it's actually a higher amount that's deductible than most people would intuitively expect. But
right.
again, it's very variable, but it allows you to know even to have that conversation. So going back to the other tab, Jason, real quick, you know, if that tax savings number is like close to zero, you might say, maybe I'm not going to bring up that portion as part of my sale process because the client may
Right.
leave disappointed. Oh, that's all I get. And that's not really the primary reason they're buying this in the first place. It's important to know that the tax savings in general, if that's driving the conversation, rarely, from our perspective, does that lead to the client moving forward. Because who cares what the tax savings are if they don't know why they're buying it in the first place, what the value of
Right.
the insurance is. But if that number is higher than you expect, like in this case, it's quite high for a S corporation, that might surprise you into realizing that that's something you should pay attention to and spend some time on with the client because it'll be worth the money saved, and they're more likely maybe even to do a more comprehensive plan, knowing there's extra value there. Or you might choose a carrier based on it. Again, we tend to like the product first, the tax savings second. But you might say, hey, this is a really close call. Let's look at the tax savings and see maybe we want to go down a different path just because that's the extra value that's going to take that one option over the top. So a lot of different ways to think about it, but the tax savings worksheet is just something to help you understand where the number comes from.
Yeah, these are a little bit deeper dive items, but that's kind of what I promised when I put out the agenda. But to Mark's point, all this is to say I'm showing you things that you don't and probably you don't need to and probably shouldn't dig into live on the call, but I think you can use Benefit Buddy behind the curtain as you're kind of rehearsing for your meeting. Okay, what scenarios do I really want to be able to show here? And just giving you an idea of the guts of the calculation so that you can go in there and make sense of the math yourself and be able to actually explain this to the client in a way that makes sense, right? So we're seeing for this column, if your premium is higher than the age limit, you're going to see the age limit. If the premium is lower than the age limit, you're going to see essentially the premium here. And you're seeing from age 50 to age 51, we take a huge jump here because the client comes into another age band here. And you can see that that amount on the age band is actually inflating by that 3%. So just wanted to be able to show that off to you folks because I think it's a really cool piece of this actually without exiting. I also want to show off that again, you can save this plan, super important piece of this. You can save the plan, pull it up later, and actually see it in your dashboard. So that's one of the things I highly recommend once you're kind of going through this and you get a good scenario that you want to show make sure to save it so that you can pull it up right away, kind of instantly recall it. Or if you want to send this to a client, you can copy the URL and send that to them. They won't be able to manipulate any of the numbers, but when they actually plug in that URL, they will see a snapshot of what you've sent. Some people also prefer to use screenshots. That is perfectly okay as well. However you would like to do it, just want to show you a couple of different options there. So I think that's it for Benefit Buddy for now, as far as kind of underused, underutilized features. Anything else you wanted to go over, Mark?
No, I think if we have a chance to look at some of the newer tools, I think that'll be fun to demo today too.
Perfect. Perfect. So just wanted to put your attention to that. And then if you want to do some newer tools, let's cover Individual Product Buddy for a little bit. Again, we recently had a study group around this. There are some plans out into the future for this tool, but for right now, we think this is an excellent starting point for where the tool's at. Um, we want these tools to be easy to use and leave you with really good resources and most of all ideas. But this tool is designed to be a product recommendation engine where you are putting in a client's age, you are putting in their state, you're giving a general assessment of their health, which we talk to down here. Here's how we categorize these different health assessments. If you don't know exactly what to put, we have some descriptions in there for you, but you can put, say, average health, and you can put any sort of level of preferred funding in here. So if you're looking for a single pay, 10 pay, whatever it may be, it will recommend product types for you to take a look at. So the top is the most recommended product type at this point, or what seems to be the best solution here for this client's inputs. And then it will provide available carriers based on what you've put in.
Yeah,
So,
can I jump in real quick?
mhm,
I would consider it like a default because the reality is that there's a lot more, as you guys know, that goes into determining what's the right
correct,
product.
correct,
And I think the main value of this kind of generically, just to be fair to all the carriers, just to be balanced in your approach, is that when you do the filters, it's going to remove carriers that are physically not an option. Like short-term care, you notice disappeared. Why did that disappear? Well, they don't go down to age 45. So you
right,
don't have to think about what are the minimums, what are the maximums, what state is every carrier in. There's actually an algorithm behind the scenes that's actually going to tell you what's available. The order
right,
system is just to give you ideas. And that's really a starting point for your exploration. Oh, I forgot about Bright House. Look at that. There's a logo on there. I don't think about them that often, but this is telling me that they're available in this situation. Perhaps I should take a look. And for us and how busy we are, you guys are, that could be really helpful just to make sure that you don't forget your client's available options. But if it's at the top of the list, the bottom of the list, the fact that it's available may make you want to explore it either way.
right. So if you find yourself ever asking your colleague in the next office or asking somebody by email or asking Mark and I, what's the best option available for 60-year-old in Kansas, or what's available for this person? Run it through Product Buddy and get yourself an idea of what is truly available and what may not be available for that client. And people generally will say in excellent health, in average health, right? Things of that nature. So as you cycle through the recommended solutions here, what it's going to give you is a one pager that will allow you to sort of dive in to that product type, get a sense of who the ideal candidates are, get a sense of the general sort of health you need to have to qualify for this product, or what kind of health we normally see the average client in for that product, and then some items as to why this product type, right? So some points about versatility of hybrid long-term care, the flexibility of caregiving options, the underwriting, premium options, partner benefits. So talking about the options for couples, inflation growth, and hopefully this is a leave behind piece for you to provide to your client so that they can look it over, remember what you talked about with regard to this product type, and take a look at the ideal candidates and say, a lot of these boxes actually sound like me, right? They're checking some of the boxes that I fall under. So I might actually be a good candidate for this product. I think I like hybrid long-term care, right? So it's designed to kind of take a lot of the over explanation out of things. And once you've talked about a certain product type or another, have a really good summary piece to leave them with about the product type before you dive in and talk about specific carriers. So that's individual product buddy. And for the carrier that's right here, you will see bullet points about that product. So it will give you kind of highlights or why it might be a good fit. And it gives a lot of the ranges for the product. So age ranges, it'll give inflation options, benefit periods, it'll give funding options, it'll tell you whether it's reimbursement or indemnity, and it will give you kind of an extra note, like one more special thing to mention about this product. So, um, in a really good place right now, but there is more that we do plan to add sometime down the road to this to actually be able to toggle the different carriers and speak to those directly as well. So individual product buddy is there, and that also complements is complemented by the individual quick quote where you can come in and get a bit more simplified version of Benefit Buddy that is a lot more consumer facing. There's going to be um, some assumptions made here, 3% compound inflation and a 6-year benefit period, so it's not as customizable, but it's going to give, in many cases, if you believe the conversation or the client you're meeting with calls for it, a bit of a simpler to tackle benefit buddy concept. And we've seen this on multiple different partner websites now in use even as a lead magnet before any sort of form to be able to meet with the person who owns the website with the organization. We've seen quite a bit of success and interest there, and really helps boil it down to this all sounds great. I know I need long-term care, but I really need to know how much this is going to cost me and what I'm actually going to get in return at my age, right? Before I want to sit down and have any further discussion. I don't want to be dragged through a half-hour discussion and not know how much this is going to cost me, right? So I think that helps kind of lower the barrier to the entry into that conversation. Mark, anything else you want to add there, or given that we have Benefit Buddy, what was really the philosophy around putting something like this into place?
Yeah, great point. And kind of where I was headed to is at a big picture level, you look at the sales tools now, right? It used to be just Benefit Buddy, and now you have four individual sales tool. You also have the group sales tools. I'm thinking of them as, let's say you're a really experienced specialist, you know the marketplace already. You don't need much guidance, but you need a way to present it. You might jump right into Benefit Buddy like Jason did today. But they are sequential. Let's say you're kind of like, I don't know where to start. I'm newer to this, or maybe I have a client and I just don't know where to go with it. I would start off with the Buddy AI Advisor, that first one at the top. I would just talk to it like a friend, like Jason or myself. Just ask it a question. Don't be shy. It's not going to give you like perfect answers like Jason and myself would, of course, just kidding. But you still want to like have it generate ideas for you, right? It's just idea generating. Like, okay, that's a good path to go down. The next step, individual product buddy, is going to sharpen the pencil a little bit more, and you can kind of narrow the focus on that specific client situation. Because we always get those questions. I have a client. What do I do? So this is designed to be a virtual advisor for you to kind of say, like, give you some ideas. What should you do? Quick quote, kind of the next step, right? Give me a kind of a sample price point. Let me see if I can get into something that's in line with their budget. And it also kind of reminds you, if you don't focus on budget, you're like just presenting a single premium out of the gate. The client doesn't have context. I think that's where a lot of sales are lost. But this kind of
Yeah,
gives
and
you that pay as you go cost, and you can always kind of shrink it down to that single premium later.
and even here, Mark, when you're in individual product buddy, it gets you thinking,
Mhm.
oh, I should probably ask how they want to fund this plan, right? Yeah, I mean, there are some things we just get so locked into the presentation that sometimes we forget to think about certain things or ask for certain preferences. So I think this is a way to just kind of um, slow you down but speed you up, right?
Mhm.
Keep you from maybe glazing over certain points, but also getting ideas quickly for the case. And I think a lot of these tools, yes, can be used live with a client, but they're best used preparing for the meeting, and then you can choose whether or not to bring them in as your aide as well, right?
Always
I
good to know
think
the answer before you make the presentation.
right, right. Many folks come with presentation materials or a quote to a particular meeting, but I think that exercise for many of us in actually setting up the case in our minds and having time to play around with the numbers and what we know about the client ahead of time, that's really where the presentation is kind of made in one, right? So I highly recommend coming in here before a case if you've got a particularly tricky one that has you stumped. I recommend coming in and just checking out these tools and just circling the wagons a bit and figuring out what edge cases do I need to be aware of? Is there anything that I wasn't thinking of in my first kind of initial run through of my brain? And especially with the AI advisor, just coming in here and asking a question. And if you come in here with the expectations of hopefully I will come away with an idea or two that I didn't have before, I think you will be very satisfied by the results you get in here most of the time. Does anybody have a question for the AI advisor that they'd like to ask it?
Yeah,
I'm
while
not
you guys are
afraid.
thinking about that, just to kind of wrap up, kind
Mhm.
of that process. Benefit Buddy is there so that you can kind of present that final solution that you're recommending. But I would personally do it that way. I would basically say, yes, I did my research. I shopped the market for you. And based on that research, this is my recommendation. So you don't have to go through all those steps because most clients they trust you and they want you to cut to the chase and help them understand why this is the right fit for them. If you're showing the client all of their options, maybe counterproductive, they might get analysis paralysis. They might ask you to go through each one of them and not make a decision. So again, you have to be smart with how you use these tools. And to Jason's point, I would use it more to say I did my research before presenting that finished solution rather than walking them through these as part of that process you have with them. Most of the clients, I think that's going to hurt your progress more than help you.
Yeah, agreed. And I think though there's a very sequential way to be able to use these, you may also just pick and choose one or two of the four for a specific case, or you
Mhm.
just find two of these tools, like coming in AI Advisor to see if there's any corners you might have missed that it can help you see Product Buddy. And then eventually you just go get a quote with the carrier that you've decided on and show custom LTCI and Benefit Buddy. Though there's kind of a sequential recommended way to use these, I think these tools are meant to fit into and help your process rather than uproot it or change your process. So I think if you have a way you've been presenting for years and years, that's fine. Um, but this is designed to kind of support that, right? To save you some time in coming to a lot of the conclusions that end up being that sort of finished presentation or process, right? That's how I see these tools being used. I know if you find that it's been very effective presenting a certain way that's worked for you, we would not want you to change that or change it overnight. So if there are ways that we can help your idea generation or just help you get a quick answer or two, that is the biggest takeaway of using these tools.
Yeah, one other thing I want to mention, Jason, just because you have this in the panel, resources, you have the sales guides. The original vision of this was also to be a one-stop shop for you. So you can go into the buddy system and find the main things that you're going to need as part of your sales process. So you don't have to use those resources, but that's really what they're designed to do. The sales tools are the ones that you're going to be really interacting with the most. But if you're looking for recorded study groups and researching more about the products, that's where you're going to find those sales guides, those study groups useful. And that's also what we're training the AI on. So it should be kind of reinforcing for you when you ask a question, it's going to be consistent because it's learned from the information that's in the portal. And it's also going to link you to the documents. You'll see in the end of like the one on the underwriting, if you scroll down, you'll see it for more detailed. It takes you somewhere else, kind of from the portal to the document right away. And that's in the study group section as well. Pinned there is you'll find this document too. But you don't have to search for it as much, if we're giving you kind of the next step right there. So hopefully that makes sense. But letting us know what your suggestions are. What are the things that you're doing day in and day out that take you time? Where can we help you shortcut some of that time? That helps us improve the portal. So just let us know kind of how this fits, your process and any gaps that you're seeing, where we can continue to enhance it. That's how we've gotten to this point, in 2 years, right?
Yep.
Is we wanted an underwriting tool, and now we have the AI advisor that gives some underwriting answers. We have a lot of questions about what product to recommend. That's why we added the product buddy. So that's all based on your feedback, and hopefully you're finding value from that.
You can see I'm asking it a group question, and this will be a nice kind of transition into where do you go next if you just want some reference information that's kind of verified, vetted, and put in our product database. You can see AI Advisor has given an answer. It's detected that my question is about group products, and it will link you to our group sales guide that's here, right? So actually getting the information on group carriers, taking a look at the playbooks, the sales process. But we also have this for the individual side, right? So if AI Advisor gives you an idea, a breadcrumb to start with, hey, you should probably look into this carrier, you can go find that carrier within the buddy system, get some of the highlights right away, and you can actually, for our carrier contacts, your BGA may have different contacts, but you can actually filter between showing the carrier cards and showing the contacts for each of these different product types. You can even read a little bit. These are kind of distillations of Mark's LinkedIn articles about different categories of long-term care. But you can actually come into each of these pages and get a sense of what the product sweet spots are. Everybody remembers my product buddy document. This is kind of the spiritual successor, right? Where we're keeping a lot of this product information, showing sample pricing, showing how to actually go and quote and apply. Getting ideas is great, but if you're introduced to a new carrier and don't know how to get a quote with them or don't know how to actually go and apply for coverage, you're left feeling like you still need to gather some answers. So this is kind of your next step, product and underwriting guides to be able to do further research as you need to. We also have pretty much every other additional resource that the carrier will provide us or that we can actually go and grab. And then the pre-screening contact is in here, right? So you can actually follow up on a piece of an idea you got from the AI advisor on underwriting and then go email the underwriter and say, is this possible for this case, right? You have to get the answer from the horse's mouth. We have that next step available to do that as well. So that was really kind of the last item I wanted to touch on here. But again, we also
Uh,
have,
Jason, before you jump there, just to discuss too how to get into the portal a little bit more in some future states. So as you guys know, we launched this with like a $50 a month price point. For those that don't work with Buddy already. If you do work with Buddy and we're getting you contracted or working with you on the group side, we can complimentary give you access to the system as well. But we had two levels, advocate level, specialist level. We've added a lot of information, but I'm pleased to report, even with the new sales tool, we're not going to change your pricing. So you're getting all of this for the same cost that you were paying for before. It's likely we're going to shrink this down just to the $50 a month level, and it'll be just kind of all inclusive. But if you're on the advocate level, that's not going to change. You'll be grandfathered into that pricing. The goal of the pricing for everyone's just kind of awareness is it does take a lot of time and cost to build this, as you can imagine. And we have developers and have had a lot of teams there. But it really helps us fund the development of the platform. So it's not really a profit center for us, but that's why, we kind of have a cost to it. It's like everybody's contributing to the cause so we can build better tools collectively. But hopefully, again, we're trying to keep that pricing affordable. And again, if you struggle or have any issues, with paying for the cost, just write us a note. We're here to help, give you access, and help you help more clients.
100%. Yep. Um, so just a couple, like an express walkthrough of some of the other items that we have. The Learning Lab, feel free to come in here and take a look at some of these videos for how to use Benefit Buddy. I painstakingly went through making well over an hour of video on how to use Benefit Buddy. So I really recommend starting there first. If you still find yourself getting stumped, you can definitely come to me. I'm always happy to give you a demo. But I think these 5 modules are really going to give you a lot of what you need. And they're titled as such. So I want to learn how to tell the self-funding story better. You can take a look at a video on how to do that. Case studies, how to generate a quick long-term care concept, how to show the value of any product. This is going to show you how to use custom LTCI and how to actually tell the long-term care story. So these are distilled from my mind based on countless meetings of showing people how to use Benefit Buddy. So I definitely recommend you taking a look at those if you're looking to get more into Benefit Buddy or use it a little smarter. But then we talk about the actual long-term care planning process with tons of resources available there. Getting started, we'll kind of walk you a bit through the portal. Long-term care funding solutions, we do have a bit on Worksite and an introduction to social media for long-term care professionals. So a lot of content in there. And the marketing section as well is going to give you a ton of great resources for individual or group long-term care. Got social media templates, got an ebook here. We've got different playbooks for the group side, handouts, flyers. There's a lot of different pieces in here that Gretchen has put together just based on feedback and based on what folks have brought to us. So there's a lot to check out there. Of course, the recorded study groups are in here for you to check out, but also Underwriting Buddy and the old Product Buddy, because I'm too sentimental to throw it away, is also in here. And our community partners page, where we've got, again, information on, organizations that are either directly involved in long-term care or are tangential, that are vetted Buddy INS community partners that you can take a look at and learn more about and see how to work with them. So
Okay.
that is
Jason,
my
someone asked me a
lightning.
question here,
Mhm.
and I'll use that to show one of the marketing pieces. Do you have a short LTC PowerPoint for a networking group? I would go to the marketing section in Benefit Buddy, and then there is a long-term care presentation, like the ebook, which is pinned. It's actually the very first thing on there. That's a good piece. It's consumer oriented, but if you have like a group of financial professionals, you want to walk them through LTC 101 planning process, this is a good piece for you to use. Because they direct message, I
100%.
won't call them out. But thanks for the question.
100%. And if you're looking for a specific topic, or like if you're looking for a specific study group call or a specific marketing piece, definitely recommend using the search bar. And that will give you, you can see I use it a lot, and that will give you some of the pieces that you're looking for, or at least point you to something close. So definitely recommend that as well.
Yeah. One more thing, Jason, before we go. People ask us, about the community and what they can do to help out. And the key for us is the subscription revenue really helps us determine our budget for future development. So the best way to help us help you, tell other people about the buddy system. They just have to go to our website to sign up, self-service. We're also improving the sign up process in the near future as well. So just a lot of ways, that you can help us. Obviously, being on this call and giving us feedback, we really value. But that also kind of helps us grow overall what we're doing with this. The carriers, trying to get them to fund some of this would be nice. We haven't had any carriers yet, contributing to this cause, but we'll keep asking. And the more influence there that, hey, I like what I'm seeing there, the more likely it is that the carriers will pay attention and invest in it too.
100%. And if you are someone with multiple agents underneath you as well, think about how the buddy system might be able to help you train new agents or really to help you save your agents time so they can keep doing what they do best.
Yeah.
So
And you can
really
cut your own
appreciate.
deal. Just tell me what your deal you want. It's pretty easy to negotiate with us.
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah. So really appreciate everybody being here. This has come from just a number of people asking me questions about certain features in the buddy system that they were messing around with. So just kind of wanted to bring you guys to some areas that I think are a little underutilized and show off some of the new tools again, because it's been a minute since we've gone over them. But here for any questions, your feedback makes this what it is, including these study groups, what they are. So really appreciate everyone being here. Be well, and we will talk to you next week. Have a good one.